Thank you for joining me on my masterclass. Now, today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to get cash flow. How to get cash flow. So, what you want, you don't want to be tied to a 9 to 5 job for the rest of your life. You don't want to be tied to that because even if you're young right now, you're going to go old. That's the prayer because the opposite of growing old is dying young, and you don't want to die young. So you're going to grow old. Now, what happens when you grow old? You increase in wisdom, but your bodily strength reduces, it drops. And so, if you continue this 9 to 5 lifestyle, even into your old age, what's going to happen is that it's going to severely affect your health. It's going to severely affect your health. It might even break your health down. So here's the thing, you know, if you want to have a decent life in future, you have to have an end game to your 9 to 5. You have to have an end game to your 9 to 5. So you got to get to a point whereby you stop working for money and then you now make money work for you. So you get to a point where you stop working for money and you make money work for you. Now, a lot of people think that this involves buying assets. Yeah, buying assets is one of the ways that you can do that. But then it doesn't stop at buying assets. Because if you buy an asset is anything that adds value to you but does not subtract value from you. That is an asset. So if you buy an asset, if you say maybe you buy real estate and then that real estate stays there, it's not a cash flow. It is an asset, but it's not a cash flow. For it to be a cash flow, it has to be an asset that while it increases in value, it is also generating a yield for you. Now, that yield, that return on your investment, that is the cash flow. So if you buy a house, for instance, and the house is just there and you're living in it, that's not cash flow. If you sell the house, you might get a profit if the market has increased. But then the house itself is an asset, but it's not a cash flow. However, if you buy a house and then you put it out to rent, and while the house is appreciating in value, your tenants are paying you rent, or you use that house for Airbnb. So while the house is appreciating in value, you're getting in income, inflow from that Airbnb. Then that house, that real estate, that property becomes a cash flow asset, a cash flow investment. So the best kinds of investment, the best kind of assets are cash flow. So you don't just want to put your money into an asset and then just wait for it. So, okay, in 5 years' time, it's going to appreciate in value and I'll sell and then I'll get something. That is not very, very wise. It's not very wise. So another way you can do it is you can invest money in the S&P 500. Now, if you have watched this channel for over a year, you know that I've taught you guys about the S&P 500. It has a 98-year history. And in that time, it has a CAGR, a compound annual growth rate of 12%. Some years it drops to about 8%. Some years it rises to about 15%. It's even been known to rise higher. But on an average of the 98-year history, it has had a CAGR, compound annual growth rate of 12%. Now, that means that if you invest in the S&P 500, and by the way, you can invest in the S&P 500 from any country on earth except those countries upon which the United States has placed sanctions on, which are very few. Countries like North Korea, probably Russia right now, and then Iran. But if you're not in one of these countries, you don't need a citizenship or a residency requirement to invest in the US stock exchange. So you can invest in the S&P 500. Now, what happens is when you invest in the S&P 500 either directly or through a brokerage firm, what happens is that you buy shares in the S&P 500 within the S&P 500, which is an index of the 500 largest corporations in America by market capitalization. Now, along the line, in the intervening period, those shares are likely to increase in value if they are S&P 500 shares. They're likely to increase in value. More often than not, they increase in value. There's a small chance because it's an investment. Investment involves risk that they could reduce in value. But for the most part, they're always going to increase in value. Now, while they're increasing in value, they are assets. But the thing is that every year you get a yield, you get a dividend return, because these are stocks, so they're going to give you a dividend every year. Some of them give a dividend every quarter, but at least you're going to get a dividend every year. So the dividend, that's now cash flow, because that's cash flowing to you. So the stocks are increasing in value. So every year they're increasing in value. That makes them assets. However, they are also giving you a yield. So if you put in $100,000 into the S&P 500, maybe you buy into an index like the Vanguard Russell Index Fund. So every year you're going to get $12,000 on the average. However, your $100,000 that you put in is also appreciating. So that's an asset. So the cash flow is the 12,000 that you're getting. The $100,000 is increasing, so maybe it might increase in value to about 120,000. But then you still get the cash flow. That's the kind of investment that you want to do. Or maybe you don't want to do real estate cash flow or S&P 500 cash flow. There's another way you can get cash flow. You can buy a gold ETF. Now, a gold ETF is an exchange traded fund. That means you're buying gold, but then you're not taking the gold home and putting it in your vault in your house. That makes you vulnerable. Thieves can raid your house and then take it. So what happens is that you've got companies who buy gold on your behalf and they give you a certificate. And that certificate is an ETF certificate. So it's an exchange traded fund. So that's why it's called a gold ETF. So they have ways of keeping the gold. Maybe they keep it in their own vault, or maybe they keep it in a mine. It doesn't matter to you. You've got your certificate. Now the thing is, gold is almost inflation proof in the fact that a lot of times, inflation affects the prices of real estate, affects the prices of, stocks. But gold is actually inflation proof to a large extent, not 100%, but to a large extent. And then gold also tends to rise in value. So you have your gold there, but then it's an exchange traded fund. So because it's an exchange traded fund, the operators of the ETF have to make a return to you. That's cash flow. So you now understand the kinds of investments that you can put your money in that's going to rise, appreciate in value, and then also it's going to give you a yield, which is the cash flow. Those are the kinds of investment that you want to do, because it will make your money work for you. That means you're no longer tied to the 9 to 5, which is actually destroying your body. A lot of people make this nonsensical, will I say, claim that hard work pays. Hard work pays only to an extent. That's why you're meant to go into it while you're young. If you read scripture, scripture says in the book of Lamentations, it says that it is good for a man to bear the yoke while he is young. That's what scripture says in the book of Lamentations. You can read it yourself. It says it is good for a man to bear the yoke while he's young. You don't want to be bearing the yoke while you're in your 40s, late 40s, 50s, 60s. Your body is not designed for bearing the yoke at that stage. So you've got to transfer the yoke from your body to your mind, your brain. So that's why you need to make your money work for you. And that's why I've taught you these 3 ways of getting cash flow. There are other ways. They come in with various degrees of risk. And for the most part, I don't want to teach that to you. If I get some of those who have taken me as mentors, and then those are my mentees, I can teach them those ways, because those ways, they come with even more risk. So they also come with more benefits, more yield, but they come with more risk. And if I teach them to you here, some of you might not understand that fully, but because of maybe greed, you go and put money there and then you lose your money. But in any case, everything I've taught you here is my personal opinion. It's not financial advice. Now, if you've watched this, you have questions arising from this, put your questions in the comment section of this video. My staff are going to bring them to me, and I'll do my best to respond to each and every category. I might not respond to each and every comment, but I'll respond to each and every category. But you got to remember, I do not have a WhatsApp forum, a Telegram channel, or a Gmail email address. Scammers have seen that my videos tend to go viral, so they create a number of fake YouTube profiles, and they approach you in the comment sections of my videos telling you helpline, guideline, contact me for more profitable information. They use my images on their YouTube videos, on their YouTube profiles, which is fake. And then if you contact them, they're going to lie to you and say that they work for me. And they're going to ask you to pay $1,000, and that's the last you get from them. Then you start chasing me, the real Ronald Murphy. And that's why I'm giving you this morning. And this is Apostle of Prosperity saying, God bless you.
Travels all around the world. I hope you get inspired. what you see. Apostle of greatness, Reno is a master. Only one man against the whole world in large. Fighting with them monsters, poverty I can't stand. That's why Reno is